Yeah, hi everyone. In this video, we'll be looking at unions in Tableau. So we'll cover the following concepts: understanding unions in Tableau, when to use unions in Tableau, then we'll go through demos to show how to use unions in Tableau, and then we'll go through the lesson summary. So data unions in Tableau allow you to combine multiple tables with similar structures into a single table. So when you have multiple tables with similar structures, you can combine them into one single table. And unions help you simplify data analysis by eliminating the need to perform separate analysis on individual tables. So say you have different tables with the same structure. Instead of doing the same um, process on these tables individually, you can combine them and just carry out your manipulations or transformations once on the union table. Now, to union your table in Tableau, your tables must come from the same connection. This means that currently you can union tables from different databases, must come from the same connection or the same source. And unions help you maintain data integrity as your original data source is retained, but you also create a consolidated or union table for analysis. And a union table can also be used in a join. So you can create a union table and use that to join a different table. Now let's look at a pictorial representation. Here you have this um, table showing you sales for different months. So this for May, this for June, this for July. And if you notice, right, they all have the same structure: date, customer name, quantity, payments type, the same structure across all the tables. So now I want to analyze this data and derive insights. But instead of doing it individually for May, for June, for July, we can combine this into one union table, right? Here, I can now carry out my analysis on my union table. So unions practically stack the tables upon each other, right? So you append the tables upon each other and increase the number of the rows. Unlike blends, joins, or relationships where you're manipulating the columns, but for unions, right, you increase the number of rows. So here we have 5 rows each for each month. Now we stack the tables upon each other, and you have your union table with 15 rows. So this is practically how unions work. Now, when should one use unions in Tableau? When you're combining two or more tables, like we saw in the example, when you're analyzing data across multiple dimensions and levels of detail without having to join or blend the data sources. So if you have data across multiple dimensions and levels of details, you can union them without having to join or blend them. Also, when you have multiple files or worksheets that have similar names or patterns, you can union them automatically using a wildcard option. And we'll see this in a bit when we do our demo. Also, when you're creating a master list of values from different tables that share common fields, you can also use a union in such scenarios. Now let's look at a demo. So I'll quickly open up Tableau Public, and here we'll try to combine um, sales data across different months and create a union table. We'll be working with this file, unions.slxs file, and you can find it in the folder. So our file is an Excel file. So I'll click on Microsoft Excel to connect to the Excel file. And when you come to the folder, this will be in the project description, will be in the video description. So on the folder, you see a file, unions.xlsx. So I'll select this and open. And we'll have data across 3 different years: 2020, 21, 22. So if I preview the 2020 data, you see this contains 5 columns: customer ID, order ID, product ID, profit, and sales. And when you scroll down, right, you see this 2020. If you look at order ID, you can see a year dimension there, 2020. And the same for 21 also. When I preview this, similar structure, 2021. When you look at this, right, 2021. And lastly, for 2022, when I preview this, similar structure also, customer ID. But you notice that there's a slight difference. So we'll come to that in a bit. So I'll drag in the 2020 data to the view. I'll just minimize this. So we'll have order ID down to perfect. Now I want to union 2021, 2022, such that I have one table that contains all the tables appended together. So I'll have one union table that has all the sales together. So what I can do is simply, I'll click on 2021. And before I do that, I'll just preview this once more. So if you look right, you see that the structures are quite similar. So this is quite similar. And here you can see that this customer ID. And here you have order ID. And you have product ID. You have profits. And you also have sales. So I'll close this and I'll just track 2021 here. And once you see union, right, you just drop it there. And here you notice that the sign here, right, has changed. It's now showing you. It's now showing you a different sign, showing that tables are stacked together. And here you see that we now have 2 extra columns, sheet and table name. This is just metadata showing you where the data is coming from. So all those rows of data, right, it comes from the 2020 sales data table, this table here. And when I scroll down, right, you see at this point, you now have 2021 sales data. So this is the point where our union occurs at this point, right? We now have the new data, 2021 sales data. So they are stacked together. And here you can see, right, it combines perfectly because all the column names are similar. Now let's do the same for the 2022 sales data. But before that, I'll just preview this, right? So I mentioned earlier that you had slight differences. So let's look at these differences here. So while most of the columns are similar, if you look at the profits, for example, right? Here you have profits. Here you have profits with an S. So that's different. Similarly, here we have sales, but in this table, you have revenue. And this is very common in the real world, right? It's two similar data sets, but you have slight differences. And it's important to take note of them as they can alter your analysis. So you have revenue, you have sales. These are the same fields, but different names, right? You have profits, you have profits. They are similar, but there's a difference also. While the other columns they look good, right? Product ID, order ID, customer ID, same here. So let's see how we can union this together. The same drill, I'll just drag this, right, and put it under. Once you see union, just drop it there. So now you have 2 extra columns, right? So Tableau tries to combine the data, right? And it sees other IDs the same. It works customer ID, product ID. Now for sales, right, and revenue, they are not similar, they are different. So Tableau tries to union the tables together. Since they are different, it just creates a new column. And here, right, for our original union table, you had valid sales values, but there is no revenue value. What does Tableau do? It puts in null values, right? Same for profit also. You have profits, but you don't have profits. So it puts in null values also. But now when we scroll down and get to 2022 sales data, that's the point. So let's just increase the number of rows. Yeah, so 150 rows. Yeah, that checks out. So when it comes to the point where tables are unioned, right, you can see now the converse is happening. This 2022 sales data. Remember, we don't have sales, rather we have revenue. And we don't have profits, rather we have profits with an S, right? So here now, for these two new columns, it has valid values. However, 2020 and 2021, they don't have those values, right? They have sales and profits, so you have null values here. So there are two ways we can resolve this. One way is to go back to your data source and ensure you put the names in the similar format. So you can rename revenue to sales and profits to profits. But then we don't have to do that since Tableau gives us an easy way to resolve this. So we know that sales and revenue are similar columns. So what I'll do is I'll highlight sales and highlight revenue. So you hold down control, right? Hold down control, click on sales and click on revenue. If you're on a Mac, then you hold down command, right? The same thing, hold down command, click on sales, click on revenue. They are both highlighted. They are similar columns. So what I'll do is I'll do a right click. And you have this field that says merge mismatch fields. So I'll click on this. And you see, right, it combines both fields together. And you can see that we don't have nulls again, right? They are now combined. However, for profits, you're still seeing the same thing, right? You have nulls here where both tables combine together. So what we can do is just rename this, click on this twice, and I'll call this sales. So we've been able to efficiently combine sales and revenue into one column, and this looks great. Now for profits, right, we can see that we still have the same issue. So the same drill, I'll click on profits, hold down control, click on profits with the S, right click, and click on the option merge mismatch fields. And now it now stacks both tables together. So you can see right here where we have 2021, 2022, it now combines perfectly. So you can rename this also and call this profits without the S. So this is how you union tables manually in Tableau. You can go on to create reports using this union data. Now let's see another example. So if you come to the folder, right, you have this folder called sales, and here you have CSV files. This is sales data for different regions: East sales, Northeast sales, South sales, and West sales. So they all have similar structure. And now I want to combine this together. But now you have the option of using a wildcard in Tableau to combine data. So for this, I'll open up a new Tableau file. I'll come onto the top left, file, and click on new. Or you can use a shortcut, Control N. That works also. So I'll open up a new Tableau file to illustrate unioning data with wildcards. So I'll maximize this. I'll just go to the data source view, data source. So those files, they are CSV files. So I'll click on text file. And this is the folder, right? Sales. I'll open this up. And you have the different files, east down to west. Just click on any of them and hit open. And Tableau is now connected to the files, right? So what I'll do is I'll just drag this out of the view, take it off the view. for now. So want to union these files together, right? And if you do a preview for each sales, you have 6 columns, right? Look at the region column. That's important. So these for the East region, right? East region. If I preview the Northeast file, right? Similar columns, you have 6 columns, and you have what? The Northeast region, right? Northeast file, Northeast region. Same thing here too. For South sales, the region is South region. Similar structure, 6 columns with the same column names. And lastly, for West sales, this was West region, right? The same table structure, 6 columns. So now instead of doing manually, we will drag repeatedly, right? So imagine you have 50 files that you want to union together, right? With the same structure. Now we can use wildcards in Tableau. So this leverages the file names, right? So here our files have similar naming conventions. eastsales.csv, not eastsales.csv, southsales.csv, westsales.csv. So they all end with sales.csv, sales.csv, sales.csv. So we can leverage that to combine them together. So imagine you have 100 files that have the same suffix. You can leverage that to union those 100 files together. So that's very useful. So I'll click on this option down here that says new union, right? New union. I'll click on this. And I'll choose the option that says wildcard automatic. So I'll click on this option. And the folder is our sales folder, right? Here we have those 4 files. Now for this option include, right? I'll put in this asterisk. So this means anything can come, right? But then it ends with sales.csv. So the star represents any possible value. It could be east, it could be northeast, it could be south, it could be west, it could be anything, right? But it must end with what? Sales.csv. So we are asking Tableau to go into this folder, any file that ends with sales.csv. That's what we want to include in our union. And you can also expand your search to subfolders. So maybe you have other subfolders in the same directory. You can check there also. You can even check the parent folder also. You can go to other folders, right, in our parent directory and search for those files that end with sales.csv. But in our case, we want to just stick to our current folder. So we'll leave those options unchecked. Once we have this right, I'll click on the option apply. Just minimize this. And here, right, let's look at the region column. So currently showing the first 1,000, I'll just put 10,000 here. Yeah, cool. So the region column, right? Let's look at the region column and scroll down. So I'll scroll down. And you can see, right, we now have what? Different regions stacked together. West, east, northeast, etc. Right? And you have a new column called paths. This is just showing you the path that this row belongs to, right? So this is for the east sales. And when you scroll down, you'll see other paths there. So for example, this for the northeast, right, etc. So you're able to stack these files, right, using the wildcard option. So let's go back to our slide. So we're able to illustrate how to combine data in Tableau using the unions option. So in this video, right, we learned how to union data in Tableau. We looked at the overview of data unions in Tableau and limitations, right? You can't union data across different data sources. They must come from the same source. And we also looked at when to use unions, right? When you're trying to append rows from different tables, worksheets, etc. And lastly, we saw a demo where we use manual unions and also wildcards in Tableau to union data. So in the next video, we'll look at creating different kinds of charts in Tableau. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next video.